So today I am going to walk through my process of packing for a 22-hour road trip on projects to do in the car. I had a quilt shop about half an hour away, 45 minutes away. It was open briefly, about 2 years. But while it was open, I had started taking a couple classes to learn wool applique. I ended up with one piece complete, and it was new to me. It was really, really new to me. But even with all of its, mistakes and all that fun stuff, I was able to complete that piece. It will be turned into a pillow. But for this trip again, for this holiday season, today is Sunday, 22nd. So right before Christmas, we leave Christmas Day. We are on the road for 22 hours. Yay. I love visiting, but I don't love getting there. So I'm going to take Cozy Wool Appliqué by Elizabeth Ann Angus, and I have marked my page, and this is why I bought the book. I love brights, I love bolds, I like funky. Can never go wrong with Kaffe Fassett Collectives. Philip Jacobs is a favorite. I am a fan of all of FreeSpirit's designers because they all have that bright, bold, fun, funky. Anna Maria, Sue Penn, Tula Pink. So these two pillows caught my attention. My instructor at the time actually had some she was working on, and they were fabulous. So I probably will make a couple into pin cushions, a couple into cute little decorations, but I was almost thinking of making a wall hanging, or put 4 together and make a throw pillow, or I'm not too sure yet, because the first couple I'm pretty sure will look funny. Wool wise, large sizes, I do have these, and I do have these at 5 inches. After I print the instructions and get them transferred to the Heat and Bond Lite, I will figure out which one of these will work for the main body. The main body of that one, the main body of that one. I'm going to assume that could even be used twice as that center. That could probably end up being that center. But I also have, I kind of went overboard. When they were closing, they had discount sales. So I did end up with scrap bags of wool. Multiple scrap bags of wool. I'm a firm believer. If you're going to go for it full blown. Dive in deep. So I do have all of these to play with. I will sit here and get prepped up. All of these I'm hoping to use, as the leaves, as the petals. I think it's going to be fun. So yeah, the video will just be me playing and picking and choosing. I'm not going to do the boring parts of the heat and bond for you. Or the tracing. But because it's just so pretty, I do have to show you the Perle Cotton. I mean, it's just so pretty. What I was doing, I never bought them individually. I always bought them in some type of box. So they all had their own name. They all came with 12. They're all the number 8 Perle Cottons. They made by Wonderfil. So it's telling me 100% Egyptian cotton, double gassed, 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 And so, for example, on the back here, you'll see that there was a neutral, there was a kaleidoscope, there was a coral reef. This box had the kaleidoscope, which was this one, because I just popped that out of there. But at one point, I got a bundle of neutrals. At one point, I got one with some variegateds. I know there's more in here. And of course, my super cute little, can you see him? Needle minder. I actually have a black cat tattoo. But, so there is the fun threads I get to play with while in the car. So not only will the fabrics be bold and bright and fun and funky, not only will the yarns be bold, bright, fun, and funky, and the wools, but just as a teaser, it's probably going to be reflective. So I have a big, huge tote. We're just going to throw it on here. Of Kaffe Fassett Collective. Mixed and matched. I mean, it's just a huge tote. It's got anything and everything in no particular order. So looking at the instructions, the charm squares are not going to work as the back of the pillow or the back of the block. So what I will need to do, and seeing if I were to use something like this, the flower's going to disappear anyways. So if I could get it out of here, I'm not sure. So I get to have fun all day today, mixing and matching and pulling fabrics and trying to not overwhelm myself with a decision. I think I'm going to approach it as pull the backing of the, because it is a full square. It's not a border. So, can you see that? There you go. I will pull all these back squares, I think, first. And then, I don't know, maybe it's 2 days to get there, 2 days to get back. Plus, we're there for 3 days. Let's aim for 1 a day. So maybe I'll pull like 7 or 8. And then I'll go ahead and after I find the back, let's say this one. Let's say this one's going to be the background of one of them. Then I would go ahead and find a color for the center. Find a color, you know, for the outside of the flower, which is black there. But those actually kind of blend. And those, to me, wouldn't be good choices. I might actually have to go like the picture did and go really, really dark. And then go kind of funky in the middle. So maybe put that as this section here. And then come in and put that. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But that is what I'm working on. Okay, so I kind of broke it down a little bit. We have I went more for, I don't want to say background prints, but not the ones with the large florals, not the ones with the big beautiful pieces that need to stay whole and be used in larger squares so that you could get the full, you know, beauty of them. I went with more of these, you know, the dots, the shark's teeth, the ones that, I guess, blenders, maybe we could call them. These, I think, work great as the background. Even looking back at her book, she had the one with the diamond. She had the one with the polka dots. And then she had the one, it's like a fan. It's like a shell, but a fan. I don't see that one, but maybe I don't have it. So I did choose all these. Way more than 8, but you know, I'll end up trying to break it down. I don't know. That one's got a large flower in it. But see, so something like this, I guess I think of it as like a layer cake. If I were to cut a 10-inch square and then build the flower, is that going to be a good background? I think that totally works. Same here. Cut that 10-inch square, build that flower. So he will stay. So yeah, I don't know. In the comments, let me know, are colors like this something you gravitate towards? Are you bold, funky, bright, Kaffe Collective type of fan? Or do these like freak you out? Do these make you cringe? I know we are all different. And sometimes I'll be like, gosh, that quilt's just way too light for me. And then 2-3 years later, make something, you know, in the same colors of that quilt I thought I didn't like. So here's another example. I opened it up. It's a big, beautiful piece with multi images and, you know, designs in it. But if I were to cut out that, build that flower, I think that could work. I could even try to see if I can cut out a dark one and then hop over and try to cut out a light one. So I think these are going to work. But yeah, down in the comments. I love to chit chat and talk. The joys of working in a quilt shop. I love when the customers come in and they have a project and they have 1 or 2 pieces of fabric and they're trying to build, you know, themselves a kit, and we get to talk about fabrics, and sometimes they're just, hey, I'm open to anything, and so I start showing them anything, or they go, nope, those big purples and blues, those freak me out. I'm like, okay, we're not going to go to that section. But sometimes you can show somebody something and they didn't know they liked it until they're right there in the shop with 8 bolts of fabric on the cutting table and their pattern and that one piece that they brought in. And, you know, they realize that, wow, I never would have thought to put pink with lime green or to put gray with periwinkle and purple. So no, yeah, let me know in the comments. I will happily chit chat and talk back with you about fabrics, and if you like these or if you don't like these, or if you think these are gonna work for those pillow thingies that I'm making, or not, or yeah, alrighty. So I was able to blindly dig through. I ended up with 11 pieces of fabric this time around, only because I'm working with SF101 and I had a piece of scrap smaller than half a yard, and so while I was cutting it, whatever I ran out of my squares, I stopped with my squares of fabric. I don't know if you're familiar with SF101. I know you're not going to be able to see this. One side is woven. And it is a woven cotton. It's nice and smooth, very, very thin. The other side is, you hear that? It's bumpy. There's an adhesive on there. When it gets wet, it turns into fabric glue and it adheres to your fabrics. So for prep work on these, I need to take my square of background and press it out. Can't give out the sizes because that's in the book. But whatever your size square is, because I know that I'm going to sew it later, either into a pincushion or into a pillow or into a wall hanging or a placemat or whatever, I need to be mindful that I will be sewing. So my SF is not exactly the same size. It is a hair smaller. So if my block was 8 inches, my SF was cut at like 7 3/4. Not a full 1/2 inch, because I don't know if you'll be able to see this on camera. When the SF gets wet, it slightly shrinks. And so I didn't really feel that I needed to cut the full 1/2 inch in, because I knew that the SF will shrink. Yes, you can use steam in this step. Yes, you can use a wet towel as directed on, I believe, the packaging. I don't even have the wrapping for it because mine was just a scrap. So now you'll see it's almost 1/4 inch, give or take. I didn't read through all the instructions. After doing it, she might actually have me trim it down. Either way, it's not too much more of a bulk. It's very, very thin in there. But what it does is it makes it so nice to work with. So here's the regular cotton. And here's the one with the SF. It's a nicer texture, feel, thickness. It's still smooth, but it lays nicely. So when doing the handwork, the way the instructor had taught me was, one, I can hide my threads. I don't ever have to stitch through the SF. I can stay with the wool and then the cotton, and then the SF kind of hides those threads. And then she also taught me that the texture of it, just that stability of having a touch of firmness helps, so that your project's not flipping and flopping and, moving and grooving all over on you. So you'll see that the steam is rising. Again, I just used my mister, which is running out of water, which is why it's not misting so nicely. Or steam, or a wet towel. Your call. And the last one. So I ended up with 11, like I mentioned. I did want to show this step. Not everyone is familiar with this product. It is genius. I do buy it by the bolt when I can. My local quilt shop carries it, but also your bigger box stores carry it. It is a Pellon product, and SF101 is the code on the end of the bolt. Cotton woven with an adhesive side. Not only for projects like this, but along the way you'll see that I use it in multiple types of projects. All right, so the 3 we just did together. And then the other random, I had to close my eyes. I had to just like blindly pick because there was a lot from my first pull. And I didn't want to get too neurotic about it. So I think these are going to be fun. Hopefully you've made it this far into the video and you're going to stick around. This will probably be a 2-part, maybe a 3-part series. After this, I'm going to go through the wool. And then part 2 will be me doing some handwork in the car on my long, long trip. And if there is a part 3, it would be me turning the pieces into objects. So pillows, pin cushions, mug rugs would be fun. Can you imagine taking one of these with a flower and then finding just another piece of fabric, doesn't matter, putting it here, cute little pocket, stick a spoon, stick some tea, and turn it into a wool applique mug rug. We'll see when we get there. As much as I would love to show this step on my fancy dancy new Caterpillar applique light box, it hasn't arrived yet. I was really, really hoping it would arrive before I left so that I could do this on video on the new Caterpillar light box, but that's okay. So, Heat and Bond Light. It is what I buy. I do buy it by the bolt. It is telling me it's a 17-inch wide. For some reason, I thought they were 20. Nope, that's coming up at 17. So, when you print or copy or anything on your home computer, right, you want to look at, I look at the left waist. So if I were to trace going this way, I would have a big chunk here as waist. If I trace going this way, then I can actually get 2 pieces back, you know, side to side, less waist as possible. And so that is what I will be doing. If you're not familiar with Heat and Bond, most images for applique are in reverse. By the looks of this applique, the images are, you know, either way works. Kind of like a heart or a star. So I would go ahead and get that up under here. I would start my tracing. And again, I was hoping to do this on my new machine because it came with little magnets to hold the applique down. But I'll probably just get some painter's tape. I would tape, you know, right here and right here in the corners. Can you see my fingers? Just so that it doesn't shift and move on me. I'll go ahead and trace both. And then I'll go ahead, well, I'll trace it 2, 4, a lot of times to get my 11 flowers. And then I'll label them, I'll cut them out, and then I will start matching wool pieces to them. But I know that some of us know how to do this, and I know that some of us are new to this. And so in my videos, just a heads up now, I will probably always walk through each and every step like this because you can't ever stop learning. And even if you've done it a million gazillion times, what if somebody does it just a little bit differently? And you're like, oh, hey, that was different, you know. I could try doing it that way. Now, see, that's a circle. Maybe I can find a cup or a jar lid that can give me that circle, and I wouldn't have to do it by hand. But for this, you just want to come in, trace your shape. The dotted lines usually mean that there's an overlay. And then this one is telling me that it's D1. I'm not going to butcher those circles on camera. Sorry, you guys. Like I said, I'll probably go find a cup. This one is telling me C1. And when I come, like on something like this, I, of course, would cut it straight. Heat and Bond, kind of like that SF. One side is smooth. The other side, can you see that it's shiny in there? The other side has texture. it's an adhesive. It's a fabric glue that adheres with heat. Not so much steam. So that SF101 in the last scene uses steam to turn the glue, to activate the glue. This one activates the glue with heat. This one is the light version, so I do like to use this one because it's a little bit more flexible on projects. You can get your needle through it nicely. This one is telling me C4, and it wants 6 of them. So in this case, I'm going to have to do like 1 of 6. Hop over into all these blank spaces later and do 2 of 6, 3 of 6, 4 of 6, etc. But to save space in her book, she didn't show it. You know, she didn't print it 6 times. Alrighty. See, here this one's telling me cut 1 and then cut 1 in reverse. So this image does have a difference in one section of it. Remember how just a few minutes ago I said they all looked pretty reversible. So this one is asking me to cut one in this direction with the point to the right. I will then draw it again in one of these blank spaces with the point to the left. We will be back. I have gone ahead and traced. Can you guys see that? I can't even see that. So I just went up, did 2 pieces of computer paper, then realized that I only needed 11, not 12. So here at the end, I just chose whichever one was laying there. Don't mind the foam underneath, I just couldn't see on my mat. But, and there we go. Everything is cut, or not cut, everything is drawn and labeled. Now on to cutting and then pairing up the wool pieces. So the fun part of all the cutting is done. Now I get to bring out all the wool scraps. And we're talking lots of itty bitty pieces. Ta-da! Bags, you saw the 2 bags earlier. I do have a couple pieces of larger cuts, so those will be for the larger flowers. But I'm not going to show all of these, but I will show the process of how I work through, one of them. So I do keep the book open for reference because it shows me her placements, color-wise. So on this one, because of all the prints in the back, might go darker. Might even have fun and go black. So it could be that. And then the part for here. But the pink will disappear, so we're not going to do that. Could have fun and go black and white on the colors, which, yep, that's what I'm going to do. So I just rough cut it. I mean, it's going to get heat and bonded on, and then it's going to get, I know earlier I said heat and bond likes heat. It does. It likes heat to adhere. But when going from wool on top of wool on top of wool, steam will be needed. And so for that, when I get there, you'll see my iron will change. Even though I love my Rowenta, it's about 20 years old, and it stopped giving me steam maybe about a year ago, which isn't too bad. But the iron itself is still very sturdy and hardy, so I don't want to mess with it too much. So I'm going to do the black. If you remembered hers from earlier, blue, black with the pink. I'm thinking we're just going to leave it black, white, and gray. So the leaves are double layered. So this would be the first and then the second. So we can go, that's cream. The only part about using scraps is you might find something that you really love and you want to use it, and then it's just not big enough. But in this case, we're okay. And I do place them. I do put them where I'm going to need them later so that I can reference back when I go to press it. I don't like the cream. They're all that creamy color. What we can do, so I have everything cut out and pressed onto the wool. I think it was about 3 seconds just to get it adhered. I did change my iron to wool though, because it was touching this and I didn't want it to be too hot and leave scorch marks. After all of these are done, I then trim them, and then you lay them down in their number order. So for example, on this flower, number 1 was the stem, number 2 was the large part of the flower, number 3 was the inside of the starburst, the little middle part. Number 4 was that. And number 5 was the leaves. And then after, you get it all, you rip off the papers and then you take it back to the ironing station. Now I know I said earlier, Heat and Bond likes dry. Well, one thing about going through all the wool is the heat can't get through it to melt it. So I do use steam on this process because it's 1, 2, 3. Actually here, you'll see the way it's cut. The adhesive will be able to get through so that it's touching the fabric. It's kind of neat. So it, that center circle is cut smaller. So either you can use an iron that has steam, or you can use a mister. You can take the paper off, line it all up, mist it, and then dry press. And then once it's all stuck together, now the steam not only adheres it, it gets through all that wool layers, it flattens it out. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's like leftover water. Feels kind of wet. Could be the leftover from when it adhered to the fabric. I think it's wet. That's kind of odd. I'll have to keep an eye on that. Excuse me. But the steam on the wool actually flattens it. So this one looks like it's going to be super chunky and thick and like 3-dimensional. Once it's been steamed and pressed, it's super thin. But that is it for part 1. I'm going to go ahead and trim and place and remove all the papers and steam them all down. And part 2 will start with me hand stitching them. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoy what you've seen so far. I am a new channel. If you would like to give it a like and a comment and a subscribe, and if you enjoy what you see so far, I'd appreciate it. Take care.